A similar, though brighter beginning was recounted by Ben, who, after his swift rescue, appeared noticeably more cheerful than his family. Finally, Michael was required to face justice for his actions. Despite having no previous criminal record, he was charged with kidnapping in Franklin County and with additional kidnapping and criminal charges in Washington County. In his first court appearance, conducted via closed-circuit television, Michael faced the serious charges brought against him, marking the beginning of the legal proceedings for his crimes. He pleaded not guilty, even though prosecutors claimed that he had confessed and was subsequently detained. The combined charges in the two counties reportedly amounted to claims valued at $4 million. Matters worsened for Michael a few days later when the St. Louis County prosecutor added 71 additional charges to the indictment for Ben's kidnapping. Of these, 18 charges related to Ben's case included 1 count of kidnapping and 17 counts associated with forced sexual abuse, as evidence indicated that the victim had been repeatedly subjected to degrading treatment several times a day during his captivity.
Dancers versus Canadians County team only 24 hours.
Do you think you can break these?
An additional 53 charges were brought in connection with Sean's kidnapping. Each of these 71 charges carried the possibility of a life sentence, and to these were added a charge for armed criminal action for having used a deadly weapon during Ben's abduction. As investigators searched Michael's residence and personal belongings, further charges were added. On March 1st, prosecutors included allegations of producing child pornography based on photographs and videos that documented the abuse, as well as transporting a minor across state lines for the purpose of engaging in sexual activities. In October 2007, Michael pleaded guilty to all charges in the 3 jurisdictions facing accusations against him. He reportedly admitted to the atrocities he had committed against Sean, and explained that he had sought another victim because Sean was no longer considered suitable. By the end of the judicial proceeding, Michael Devlin was sentenced to life imprisonment totaling 1,850 years. On January 30th, 2008, he began serving his sentence. Later, a federal court imposed an additional sentence of at least 170 years, bringing the cumulative total to 2,020 years, ensuring that he would never be free again. Michael was confined at the Cross Correctional Center in Cameron, Missouri. In March 2008, as part of an effort to better understand the mindset of such offenders and to train law enforcement, Michael was interviewed by agents from the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit along with a Maryland Heights police investigator. Although the agents had anticipated a guarded response, they found Michael surprisingly forthcoming. During an interview that lasted several hours, Michael became introspective, expressing curiosity about the factors that had driven him to commit these crimes. He stated that for years he had struggled to control an attraction to the young children. When Maryland Heights Police Captain William Castle asked him to describe his sexual orientation, Michael replied with a single word: sick. Michael explained that despite being adopted as a baby, he had experienced a most happy childhood, free from physical or sexual abuse. He claimed that, unlike many others, he first became aware of his attraction to young children around the age of 13, comparing it to the natural attraction that women feel toward adult men. As a teenager, he admitted that he attempted to abuse a child but failed, and thereafter spent years trying to repress his urges. He described how he occupied his mind by overeating until he reached nearly 140 kilograms, obsessively cleaning his apartment, and spending long hours playing video games. He also avoided contact with the children of family and friends, and even noted that he did not watch porn, a detail that surprised the brothers. Michael further confessed that he had tried to establish relationships with adult men, but these did not quell his desires. Eventually, unable to control his appetites and lacking the social skills needed to manipulate an adult, he began seeking opportunities to kidnap a child. This search led him to abduct Sean, and he claimed that he would have continued his criminal activities until he was eventually caught. On April 9, 2011, during a breakfast program, Michael was stopped taking his diabetes medication and expressed suicidal thoughts. As of the most recent information available from March 2022, Michael remains incarcerated. Despite the hardships he endured, Sean managed to rebuild his life. Although he was initially too traumatized to speak about his ordeal for more than 2 years, he eventually began to open up about his experiences. At the time of his abduction, Sean was a 5th grade student. During his 4-year captivity, he was kept away from the classroom. However, determined to catch up academically, he devoted a year and a half to intensive study and eventually matched his peers. He also resumed participation in various land and water sports and appeared in numerous interviews in which he stressed the importance of community vigilance, urging the public to report any suspicious behavior or unclear situations. He also emphasized that parents of missing children must never stop their search and that those held captive should continue to nurture hope. As Sean was nearing his 28th birthday, another tragedy struck his life. His beloved stepfather, Craig Accords, whom Sean had cherished as a father figure, passed away from bladder cancer on July 15, 2019, at the age of 57. Craig's burial was held at Jefferson Barracks National Cemetery, where he was honoured with full military honours for his service in the United States Air Force and as a member of the Patriot Guard. Although the foundation established to help keep Sean's case in the public eye closed in 2013 due to funding and logistical challenges, its members later assisted in founding the Missouri Valley Search and Rescue Team. Investigators have repeatedly acknowledged that the case might never have been solved without the extraordinary memory of young Mitchell Hall. Mitchell provided crucial details about the suspicious man seen driving away from the scene following Ben's abduction. In recognition of his contribution, a surprise ceremony was held at Union High School, where FBI agent Roman Corbison praised Mitchell's detailed account and expressed hope that it might inspire him to pursue a career in law enforcement. In 2007, the St. Louis Auto Show even awarded him a Chrysler truck as a reward for helping to set his life back on track. According to some reports, Mitchell later secured employment, got married and started a family, though recent images do not indicate. In one of the more chilling twists of fate, it was also discovered that Sean's biological father, Walter Humberg, had a troubled past. Humberg was a convicted sex offender who had served 3 years in prison on charges related to drugs and sexual misconduct involving. According to case files, following his release, when Sean was around 6 years old, his wife, Pablo, expelled him from their home, and they divorced about a year after Sean's birth. Consequently, Walter never re-established contact with his son.
time, Edward describes how he stumbled into a terrible hidden world where young children are and then murdered, all before the unblinking eye of the video camera.
The police say they've never seen a genuine tape where a child is actually... Surely it's more likely that this was a clever fake.
No, it's not a clever fake. These tapes do exist. The problem is that it is so hard for people like you and I to believe that there are people out there that would do that to children, that it is easier for us to dismiss it as being a fable. In the Second World War, people didn't believe that there were concentration camps, and there were. It is easier to believe that I'm lying than to believe that these tapes are real.
No police force in the world has ever seen a genuine so-called snuff movie where a child is actually in front of the camera. But tapes have been seized where children are terribly... In this case, the victim was an 8-year-old boy called Bjorn. The Swedish police released extracts from one tape to Swedish television, who passed them to us.
If you have a 700 plus credit score, you qualify for Chase's new program where you can access up to 150...
What once the Obscene Publications Squad is now reorganised as the Philia Unit. 15 officers work full-time trying to catch the files and identify their victims. Thousands of tapes are laboriously examined, since files will often hide obscene material on apparently innocent recordings.
Thankfully, most people have never seen what's referred to as child pornography. And I think if you ask them the question what child pornography is, it comes up in their mind with the image that they can deal with on a personal level. What we actually deal with here, which is unfortunately often referred to as kidding, is the evidence of serious sexual crime against children. And that evidence is contained in the films, whether it be on video or photograph.
The Philia Unit at Scotland Yard has also seized a copy of the Bjorn tape. Their interest is in the English men who made the tape and the young boy they have...
And it shows a young boy, aged between 7 and 8 years, carried into a room, he's hooded, he's taken to a chair, or he's tied to the chair, and then, over a period of time, he is set to view in the most horrific way.
The police believe the man is from the south of England and is called John. The boy is European but speaks English. At one point he warns John not to show his face.
The boy shouts your face, which tends to show that he's either been told that there's obviously a monitor in front of him where he can see what's happening. He's been told that if at any stage the abuser's face is on there, he appears to say,
terrifying. What did Warwick say to him? He glanced down at the boy and said, I've got a delivery of anything in another half an hour. I don't know what happened to the boy. I never saw the boy again. And decided not to ask what he actually meant by making a delivery.
He was very adept at identifying vulnerable children. He would visit railway stations, streets in London, and having identified the child, he would then convince the child that it was in his interests to know him. He would also eventually abuse him. But on that basis, he would always have at the back of his mind, I suspect, there was an opportunity to take the child to Amsterdam.
When Edward met Spinks, the friendly Londoner was working as a barman and pimp in a brothel called the Gay Place.
Upstairs was a gay brothel for prostitutes, male prostitutes. Warwick's job there was basically for the prostitutes upstairs, and also, of course, to encourage other prostitutes to join.
This photo-storing gadget is taking over the tech market in the U.S. This tiny device can safely back up and store thousands.
In Holland, tuition, gay or straight, is tolerated and open. Boys under the age of 16 are not allowed to work in brothels, but crowds who want to have sex with much younger children can find what they want in Amsterdam. Men like Warwick Spinks need a steady supply of vulnerable young boys. Many of the youngsters who end up trapped in Amsterdam start their journey on the streets of London.
This is Piccadilly Circus. It's what called the meat racket. A lot of people know that if you want a male chick, this is where you're comfortable. So why didn't you go straight there and then straight home again?
I didn't know when I was not allowed to walk around. I'm sorry.
You can walk around, but when you start watching in toilets and looking at people, where does it stop? Where does it stop you?
The police estimate that there are at least 25,000 files currently active in Britain. Sergeant Steve Edwards and his colleagues stop and question any young person they suspect may be at risk of attracting the attention of files.
We've got some information there. There may be a man bringing this is the station that leads to South Coast, so we may see him walking about the boys. Also, because of the mainline station, you'll get runaways coming in. The first port of call will also be a British Rail mainline station before they go anywhere else. That brings death them before they get too far. It's fast food outlets here as well, we're making people hang around. There's also a couple of amusement arcades.
Amusement arcades are irresistible magnets for many children and for the men who hunt them.
The kids only got £4 or £5 in their pocket, the money's going to go really quickly. What you'll find in the back of these amusement arcades is an old male, pocket full of pound coins. And when the kids run out of money, they'll say, have a couple of pounds. We've got to go to the coffee, we've got to have a burger. Did you know, before I was standing, was you aware of the man that's standing behind you watching you? You're occupied. There's a lot of them about. But what this geezer was doing, he was going to kill.
This young boy was given a severe warning and taken home to his parents. Men like Warwick Spinks are experts at targeting and exploiting vulnerable young people they meet on the street.
He would go to London or Munich or Berlin, so he was able to approach the boys and offer them something that they needed at the time, whether that was just a roof over their head, or security, or money, or drugs, or just 2 meals a day.
In November 1992, 17-year-old Kenny was homeless, penniless, and drifting into drugs. He was the perfect target for Warwick Spinks.
I didn't have much friends at the time, and he seemed okay, he seemed genuine. I didn't know that Warwick was gay until the following night, when we was in the pubs and the clubs, and I saw Warwick, the way he worked, the way he was some of them looked scared, some of them looked fucked up, some of them looked happy and they wanted to move. But most of the photographs, I explored it, everything I want to do, and that's what gave me the bad vibe.
Did you say anything with any of the photos?
Yeah, there was a photograph, and it said the Virgin, and the only thing that actually said, it was the only photograph that actually said.
And what age was that boy?
I think he'd be about 10, 11. He was only a child. Kenny ended up owing Spinks hundreds of pounds. When he couldn't pay up, Spinks suggested an alternative method of clearing his debt. The only way to pay it off was to hit young boys. And what he meant it was, I totally understood. As in what it wanted young male boys to go with him and make sexual toys. I told him no, told him that it's just out of the question. I pay him installments, he likes it or not. Right, started to fight him, not fighting on him, but actually by him, pushing him around, he was laughing, he enjoyed it. Kenny says Spinks was him that night. Spinks also told the teenager why he wanted younger boys. I just thought, what did you get out of it? And he says he likes him to bleed, he likes him to cry, he likes to see pain. He gets all that and don't pain. And that's what he does. He just enjoys it. He says that he likes the boys to cry. He enjoys the boys to cry. He wants the boys to cry. And he knows how to make them cry. And I think that's his gift. His ambition. That's what he wants. Kenny refused to help Spinks find younger boys and managed to break away from the sinister world into which he had stumbled. Others weren't so lucky. Edward says that he didn't realise Spinks was both a far and a pin until it was too late.
People would approach him, being the sort of character he was, and say that they wanted to have with boys who were younger than were allowed in brothels, or to have runs or extremely dangerous with underage children.
The challenge for Spinks was to find a steady supply of underage boys to feed the appetites of his clients in Amsterdam. The Londoner had his favourite hunting grounds. One was Piccadilly Circus.
So all people know that if you want to melt, this is where you're comfortable. They'll sit in the front windows of the fast food or the coffee shop, hang around in the railings, and it's hunters that want a young man will come here.
Sergeant Steve Edwards is constantly on the lookout for young homeless boys who often end up selling themselves as pets. They're known on the street as rent boys. I think it's been explained to you.
All I said to you earlier on, now have more evidence that you're renting, alright? You're renting.
Look at this.
Yeah? You're renting.
Message, and I got these. Give us a call.
Work speaks would prey on children that were vulnerable in their own life, that needed things that they didn't have, things that they perceived can be offered by people like all experience. And particularly bearing in mind you would travel to the areas where vulnerable children tend to complicate people and put through home, strangers to particular London. He would know that they were there particularly because of that.
Spinks' next victim, Gary, was just 14 years old. He and a friend had run away from a children's home in the north of England and were living on the street in London when they first met Warwick Spinks.
Well, they were for about a night, 2 nights or something. Shabby, it was cold,
we had nothing to eat, we sat on the wall. When one of the posters learned for the team, we just thought it was a genuine guy, so we thought like we might be able to get a nice thing to eat from Google Style, and help to eat and no money. So we went out with him.
The boys travelled with Spinks to his flat in Hastings.
When he pulled out that, and then told us to take my clothes off and told us to leave the fine. Used to boy took pictures and then used the phone. Why was he taking pictures? Oh, and send it to Amsterdam and these places so he could make money.
Hooked on drugs and totally under Spinks' control, 14-year-old was taken on a terrifying journey to a strange city.
I didn't know what to do, so I had to go back to Amsterdam to pick up some food. So I went up with him and sold me out for the brothel.
Gary says he was sold by Spinks as the Blue Boy, a notorious gay brothel in the heart of Amsterdam.
And what happened? He got to abuse and all would come to the landlord and he just kept the boys drugs to give you drugs for example. Even if they didn't want drugs to give you anymore. Put them in the drinks. And people could do what they wanted to.
Amsterdam takes pride in its reputation as Europe's most tolerant city. Claims that children have been on camera in Amsterdam take child pornography to the extreme. But all kinds of British men who are sexually attracted to children and criminals who profit from this obsession have congregated here.
There have been long-held suspicions that boys were being encouraged to leave London and travel to Amsterdam to work in the brothels that existed there. This was in the time of 1990-1991. A number of information sources approached us, telling us that this was happening and that it involved United Kingdom nationals.
This is the Dutch home of Englishman Peter Howells. Mr. Howells is an actor and the manager of a London-based casting agency called Bother-Boots. For nearly 20 years, the agency was used as a cover for another area of the child pornography business, obscene photographs. Children were tempted to pose for Bother-Boots by the offer of TV work. This reconstruction is based on statements given by children to the police. Children as young as 8 would visit the home of a man who they thought was the official photographer for Bother-Boots. Harry Jeffries always welcomed young boys, like me.
Harry was coming across like he was like an uncle. Everything that we was doing was basically, he was there, nothing that we couldn't really do during school times anywhere else. I've done a photo session at his flat and he told me he would potentially come to my doorstep and tell my mum why I was a bit late. He actually come to my front door and explained who he was to my mum and told her that I was late because of a football match. And he was there as a spectator with a friend of mine and he brought me home and my mum had nothing to worry about. How do you like this interpret?
The children were impressed by the fact that one of the other photographers, James Chalkley, already had a minor role in the TV soap EastEnders.
I thought it was a good opportunity for me to really get onto EastEnders through doing photos. So I basically thought it was innocent through wearing swim trunks as well, that there was nothing wrong with doing it. But then it got to the stage where he would say, can you pull the trunks down from your bum a little bit and just expose a little. Or that's when I started actually worrying a bit. What the photographers, and certainly Harry and the others did, was they would say, right, we need to rub baby oil on you because you can't see the picture that we're taking. So initially the boys would actually rub baby oil on themselves, and then you'd miss the bit. And so the photographers themselves would then rub it further, and they would then start asking them to roll down their pants until it virtually became nothing that they were wearing. Take them off. Not going to ask you again. Stay up. He would get more aggressive in the way he talked to you, and if he was to say to you, you ready to do the pose, and you say, no, I'm not doing no photos no more. I'm at a certain age, I was 14, I said, I've had enough, no more photos. You'd get to the stage where he would physically, verbally say to you, like, if you don't do these photos, your mum and dad will know about these. Everyone will know about these. I'll put these everywhere. First of all, your parents won't believe you if you tell them I photographed you naked. Secondly, I will show these photographs around the estate to all your friends and they're going to laugh at you. So scared that I didn't have it in me. I just couldn't do it. I could not tell my mum or dad what was going on. As much as I really wanted to tell them, I just couldn't do it. It would have been easy to find me like that. It would have worried them as well. It makes you feel like you want to tear your hair out. Because I know if I leave the day, and you thought